Hello there. My name is Anna Maros. I'm editor-in-chief at Careerist, and today I'm very thrilled to embark on a new journey where we will be unveiling the success stories and insightful reviews of our students. Every individual has a tale to tell, and we are here to celebrate those narratives. Kicking off our series is an inspiring transformation that bridges the world of healthcare and design. Meet Imani Douglas, once a dedicated healthcare specialist, and today she's passionately charting her course in the realm of UX design. So stay tuned with Careerist.
Yeah, so I did several years, about 6 to 8 years in healthcare. I worked in clinical trial settings and laboratories, in hospitals, at home, like in-home services and things of that nature. So I did several roles. I even went to school, so I worked on a bachelor's program in health science as well. And then the pandemic happened, and then I still spent a couple years in healthcare after that. I moved from my school, Missouri State in Springfield, back home to St. Louis. And I just was feeling kind of drained and like I needed a change of pace. I also had some health issues that I dealt with, and I kind of really wanted something that was more flexible and that I could possibly work from home or remote. I did some brief research for different topics, and my friends suggested technology. And I was always that person that was like, technology, why would I do that? Like, ugh, no, I don't want to code. I don't want to like do technical, I don't want to fix computers or whatnot. And then my friend, just a random friend said, maybe you should check out UX design. I like heard something random about it on TikTok. And so I did a deep dive for like a month, did TikTok videos, YouTubes, everything of that nature, and landed on the Careerist program. And I just really felt like it was the direction I wanted to go in. It was creative, but also technical, but also involved research, which like supports my methodical like thinking and all the like science studies I did like that. So I really loved UX design and not just designing in general. So a UX designer is a person who tailors a digital product, whether it's an app or website or any other digital technology based product, to the user's needs, to improve or provide a service or product. Other soft skill other than communication. I mean, teamwork, being able to multitask or like assign projects or speak up when you think things should change. My instructor gave a really good note that I was doing throughout our internship. He said that I always had an explanation or a reason for a design choice. So not just designing, but thinking about the bigger picture, the steps it takes, the end goal, and why this would improve things versus the other, like why this is better than another variation. So soft skills like that are very important. Being able to advocate for yourself, for your designs, for your team. I think that's very important in the design space. I actually compared a couple of boot camps together. I was looking at the price and the time. When I decided I wanted to do UX design, I wanted to start immediately. I didn't want to wait for a couple of months. I didn't want to start later. And Careerist was offering a program that I started like 2 weeks later or something, like immediately. And then also they had a pretty good price as well. So it wasn't, 14,000 or 13,000 or something like that. It was like in a price range that I can manage. And I also had like a pay monthly system that I was able to do, which was really felt well in my budget. And even more importantly, I was working at the time and I needed something flexible, something that happened in the evening, something I can go back and watch and record if I miss like lectures and things like that. And then I didn't want to do an entire year. I kind of wanted to get into like the knit and grit of everything faster than that, because I was just really excited to start. We had classes twice a week and then study session on the weekend, that was nice. But I did do a lot of outside studying. I did a lot of research on my own and practicing on my own. Went back and looked over class lecture videos. So I was fortunate enough to be able to spend 20 plus hours a week practicing and studying and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a point in time where my motivation went way down, and I like slowed down drastically on my studying and my practicing, and I also, got sick a lot and then got further behind. My careerist study group and my lecturers and my instructors, they were really supportive and really helpful. They gave me the time that I needed and then further instruction when I needed that. So to help bring my motivation back, I would just look at people who were in the same situation I was, like did a boot camp and then got a career, and I just kept watching videos like that and finding inspiration in new kinds of design. When we got to the UI part of the course, I really shined and I really loved that course. Even though I didn't it was hard at first, like watching the lectures and following, I wasn't able to do that very well, and I had to do a lot of practice on my own outside of that. But watching, like being able to actually design and be creative was really helpful. Yes, the mentors were sometimes more valuable than the actual lectures. Even some of the lecture, you can email them or message them on Slack outside of class on your own individual projects or any questions you had, and they would do their best to respond. So the support from Careerist was definitely outstanding during my education, and it was there are people that they tell you follow me on LinkedIn, keep in contact with me, reach out to me. I want to know how your career is going, how your struggling is going, any questions you have, I'm here for you. So that was very helpful as well. Yes, the biggest pros of working with Careerist was the ability to explore my own project and my own thoughts, but still having the support from mentors and instructors and everyone else around me. Um, the background that I got in our education, our lectures, gave me the foundation I needed to do further research on my own. Without that foundation, I wouldn't know what direction to go in. So I kept track of our notes. I studied, but I also used those foundations to grow my education outside of Careerist as well. And I was able to work out my frustrations and my confusions because I had the mentors and the instructors behind me to explain and support and be there for me during really hard times. Something
Cool.
that I forgot to mention was that I lost a lot of my files after my internship, my big files that I needed for my portfolio. And I was really upset. I was devastated. And I reached out to Careerist and my instructors, and they like jumped at the chance to help me. They explained, we worked out an action plan to recreate my files that I lost. They were there every step of the way supporting me. So that was another really big pro, that they're there for you, not just in education and lecture, but also outside in the real world as well. Okay, so my internship was both frustrating and educational at the
Wow.
same time. We had 5 weeks to get our feature done. We took on a lot as a group because we wanted to. We wanted to get kind of like a lot of different components of the feature done. I didn't like how all of our designs kind of looked different. It almost looked like we were putting together 3 different apps for the same thing, and I wasn't happy about that. I did understand, my lead designer was incredible. He's great. He was very educational and supportive, and he stayed on with us longer than the call was required. So we spent more hours than what was required of us. But I did understand that we were only able to do one iteration of our design. And he explained the design process and how teams work and how teams have worked for him in the past. And, the first looks nothing like the last. You can go through 5, 10, 15, 20 different iterations of a design before you land where you want. But what I didn't enjoy was that this internship was supposed to be another project to put on my portfolio. So at the end of it, I was hoping that I had a complete project that I could just drop on my portfolio without doing any extra work to, which is not the case. I have to go back still and correct some errors and get things to look more in sync and together. My lead instructor, he did encourage us to continue designing on the project, expand the features even more than what we did. Don't stop. One thing he kept saying throughout the whole project is, don't fall in love with your design. It's going to change. It'll always change. Be open to feedback and change in the design process. So I learned a lot about how a team works together, for sure. I think the biggest selling point was my knowledge of UX design and the design process itself. So actually, it's a really funny story. I was just going in for a part-time job as a receptionist at a nail company, because I just wanted something to do part-time while I continued designing and building my portfolio. So I went to this job interview with my resume that said a lot about designing and UX, and they saw that on my resume and they wanted to know more. And so I just explained what UX design is. I talked about the design process, iteration, research, hypothesizing, problem statements, and then wireframing and things of that nature. They told me about the website that they had. I actually, before I even went in for the interview, I checked out their website just to see what it was like. And then I started making a list of errors that I saw or that I would improve, only because it's something that I tend to do now for no reason. I didn't think I would be able to share it with them, but I did. And so I explained like this, I would improve this way because a user might interpret this better if you did better typography. I explained that their designs aren't translating between the devices well and things like that, and they were really impressed by my whole education around UX design and not just design. And so they told me to come back with like a price list of my services and that they would contract me out. I'm still working with my career coach and my UX mentor, but I have like an artist consulting company that I've had for a while and haven't done too much with it. I actually decided to do some freelancing. I'm about to pitch my first kind of proposal to a client. So someone was interested and said, hey, I want to know more. So that's exciting.
Wow.
And
Congrats.
yeah, I know, I'm really excited about that. But I do know that I decided to work for a bigger company first, instead of a small startup or like freelance consulting company. I'd rather work for a bigger company to kind of like get my foot in the door and to have more mentorships and guidance and kind of continue learning. So while I'm doing that, I will also continue my freelancing on the side, just maybe one client at a time, and see how that goes. It's an interesting question. I'm kind of finding that I like to work on a bunch of different projects. There were other things on that list. I wanted to create a better interface with Instacart for people with disabilities. Before this, I worked as a program supervisor for adults with mental and physical disabilities. And some apps like Instacart are really, really useful, but it's hard to see or understand or comprehend when you have a disability that enables you. So I was coming up with different solutions, like maybe you speak your grocery list into Instacart and it writes it down for you, or it orders it for you, or you take a picture, so that was a project. A smaller project involved YouTube. It was another exercise that we did actually, and pick an app that already existed, and I was like, okay, YouTube, We're like, hey, what's the problem? Like, well, I hate going into my history section and trying to find a video I watched 2 weeks ago. It doesn't work like that. I have to scroll through all the videos. So my instructors encouraged me to find a solution for that. So yeah, there are other projects that I definitely want to do. I'm finding that I like to work on different things and not really in the same realm. If you love helping people and designing on technology, I'd say UX design is perfect for you. The focus is on the user and empathizing with the user, um, and not just being creative. Being creative is fun and it's a really great part of it. But to know that your creations are helping people is just an incredible motivation to get up and work every day.